Hi, I'm Ross Waugh from Waugh Infrastructure Management and InfraManage, and we're looking at part 2 of the discussion on integrated urban planning in a series of videos that have been centred around this paper here that I produced for the Ingenium conference in June 2013, Infrastructure Management Forecasting the Changes to 2030. It's a New Zealand-based discussion. And what we're talking about now is some examples from the Nordic countries that I picked up when I went to the International Federation of Municipals Engineers conference in Helsinki in June last year. These slides aren't in the conference paper, but I think they're well worth having a look at, and just for some lessons that they can teach us in New Zealand. And so the first one we're going to first slide up here at the moment is around Helsinki. It's the area where they used to have their oil terminals and their containers and cruise ships. And what they've pulled up is 100 hectares of area, 1.5 kilometres from the city, from the main basin in Helsinki, where the harbour comes right into the centre of the city there. And the first thing they decided to do was, hey, we don't need all tanks and we don't need containers and that rightness in the heart of our city anymore. So they've moved them around the coast because modern technology allows you to do that. They're keeping the cruise ships there because they want to bring them right into the centre of the city. And they've started construction. I think that was one of the things that really interested me, was the construction period was 2009, it's underway, through to 2025. And there was about a 5 to 7 year planning period beforehand. Now, I was fortunate enough as part of the conference on the technical tours to actually go through the site. They're building all the wastewater and water systems, and they've started building out some of the apartments and office blocks and things like that. It's a really interesting project. From a wastewater management point of view, it's got automated vacuum collection because they're sitting right on top of the sea basically, so no depth to do anything. And here's the difference with New Zealand. I just don't think in New Zealand we're very good at doing 16-year construction periods for this sort of thing. We'd be making a lot of noise after about year 2 or 3 that it's not finished and it's a white elephant and all that sort of thing. They have recognised up there in Helsinki that it's going to take them that amount of time to build out apartments for 16,000 residents, to build out mixed office and accommodation. They've got, in the 100 hectares, 19.8 hectares of parks, because obviously if everywhere's in apartments, then public open space becomes quite important. So really the short answer there is, don't be afraid to move stuff, take these longer time frames, take a fair bit of time planning, and you can actually achieve some quite extraordinary things. Now, the other thing about the site, when we were taken around it, we had explained to us was, it's the funding for this is a combination, in their case, of their central government, their state government, and the city governments are all funding plus developers. So it's a really integrated financial package and funding package, as well as an integrated planning package, and just quite exciting that they're able to do that sort of thing and really enhance their centre city and the livability. It's in walking distance to the centre basin, so really good. The second one is also in Helsinki. The slide's up there now, and this is the old Fishing Harbour. And it's a bit bigger, 177 hectares, just around the other side of the city. And again, there used to be an old coal-fired power station there. And so they're leaving one there, you can see it in the diagram with the smokestack there, but they're moving a power station, again, putting the new power station further around the coast. I'm not sure what type it is. But an area, 177 hectares, 18,000 residents, 12,000 jobs within that 18,000, so there's again mixed office and residential accommodation, 5 kilometres of shoreline, bridges linking them to islands in the harbour and things like that. And the first thing they did, other than moving the power station, was also build a massive big metro station there so that people can get round to the centre city really quickly. So integrated planning, integrated public transport, not afraid to move a thumping great industrial plant in a power station, and creating a really attractive mixed residential and office area. And again, 2009 to 2035, so you're talking about a 26-year construction period. And again, in New Zealand, I just think our time frames are often so short, and we should just get our heads around building stuff out over a bit longer period of time. So another exciting project in Helsinki. The third project I want to look at, and there's a few slides up for that, is the Royal Seaport in Stockholm. And so at the conference last year, we went from, it was in Helsinki and it moved across to Stockholm for one day. And so we actually came into this area and had it explained to us while we were in the area. And 236 hectares, massive project, 3.5 kilometres from Stockholm city centre. And again, there was an old gasworks there, so a whole heap of contaminated land from the gasworks. They're using the old gas cylinders and turning them into concert halls and art centres and things like that. That's the first part of the project. I think there's like a 5 to 7 year site remediation phase, which is just dealing with the land that's there, getting rid of the contamination, and also quite a long planning phase before that. I think it's one of Europe's larger urban redevelopment projects on at the moment. They're looking at an urban environmental district with integrated public transport. They're going to have 10,000 homes, 30,000 workspaces, and again, 2010 to 2025. So a 15-year construction phase there. And just if you look at the next slide up there, it sort of gives you a bit of a bird's eye view of the thing. Right on the sea, very attractive, cruise ships coming through into the harbour parts of the site, and just a real vision and a longer term vision to reclaiming urban space and just making the most of it with modern technology. And so I just, again, a really great example of what you can do when you think broadly, integratedly and holistically around the provision of housing and infrastructure. So the last one of these is also from Stockholm, Hagastaden, and really interesting thing about this from a transportation point of view is that there's a major European highway runs through the centre of the site. And so if you see the slide that's up there at the moment, on the left-hand side of the slide, there's a big industrial, this is the Karolinska University Hospital. It's a massive big medical research hospital. And they're rebuilding that. So it was at its use-by date, so they're building a whole new hospital there. But the issue they had was that this major European E4, E20 and rail links ran through next to the hospital. And so what they decided to do was to link them up by putting part of them into tunnels, and then build the accommodation and houses on the other side with some parklands on top of the tunnels. And so you'll see the office towers on the other side from the hospital, nice and close to the city centre again. Construction period 2010 to 2025, 5,000 hospitals, 36,000 workspace, 5,000 houses, 36,000 workspaces, new hospital, 96 hectares, and a 15-year build-out. And again, we went through this site, and it's an absolutely massive construction site. So the next set of slides just shows you some of the tunnelling, some of the phasing of the thing, and there was sort of something like about 40 tower cranes around the site when we went through it a year ago. And so it's not a project for the faint-hearted when you're taking 12 lanes of road and putting them into tunnels whilst keeping them open, and also putting the train links into tunnels as well. But again, take the big picture, take the urban connectivity that you want, take a longer term funding and construction period, and you can achieve this sort of stuff. So quite an exciting project, certainly interesting from an engineering point of view to drive through it and just see the scale of it and the scale of what they're doing. Swedes are quite proud of it, quite obviously, because it's quite revolutionary from their point of view, and a decent sized construction project. And look, they're getting on with it and doing a really good job. And so just in terms of the integrated urban planning discussion in New Zealand, again, in terms of infrastructure, we've got a lot going on, a lot of changes, Auckland in particular growing very rapidly, big changes in demography, and the challenge I wanted to leave with these slides is there are really good examples, particularly in the Nordic countries, of longer term planning, really integrated holistic planning, and just looking at what you can do when you try and phase things out over a longer period and what can be achieved. And I think we should consider that here in New Zealand. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.